I'm not a weatherman. I'm an observant person. As I said before, I've been paying attention to the weather all my life. I have something to say about what happened yesterday. Now, I knew the flooding was bad. I knew it was crazy. I told you it looked like a giant pizza on the radar map, a cheese pizza, because it was all red, yellow, just red, yellow, and orange, just painted the whole thing. And I've never seen that before in my life. When I saw that, I went, oh my God. You know, and like I said, I've been watching the radar since I was a kid because I was afraid of thunder and lightning. Now, there was hardly any thunder and lightning. That was all water. Here is my theory. And no scientist is going to agree with me, and I am not a scientist. I have been complaining about how bad I felt, and I've been saying it was muggy for 4 months. I've said that on my other videos where I'm just complaining about my life. Okay, I live in New Bedford, Massachusetts. That is on the south coast. Like I said, it's like if Cape Cod was an arm, it's in the armpit, right? Okay, last night there was a tornado warning. I don't think there ended up being a tornado here, but there did end up being one in Dennis, which is that one. It was that one that went that way, which is that's actually on the Cape itself. Um, all the water that fell and came down. My theory is this. As I've complained about the weather, as I've said how it doesn't cool off and it doesn't clear up, when I was growing up in the summertime, it would be, oh, a nice beautiful day, blue, deep blue sky, one maybe white cloud. Then the next day there'd be more clouds, start to get a smidge humid. Then the next day it would get very humid, maybe even as much as fog at night, like when it starts to get, the sun goes down and the air would rise, and then on the very, very humid day, what would happen, generally speaking, is there would be a cold front come by, or sometimes you didn't even have a cold front, but the moisture would rise and make clouds. Those clouds would get bigger and bigger, and you would see them become thunder clouds. And then, either because of the squeegee nature of a cold front that would take all that crappy humid air and squish it out, depending on how humid it was before in front of the cold front and how crisp and clear it was going to be behind, whatever the difference there was, it would be kind of how bad a thunderstorm would be. But I hated the thunderstorms. They scared me, but I knew that they had to happen in order to clear the air out, get us back to normal good air instead of that muggy, nasty, humid stuff. I have said many times that since May, I feel like it's just been muggy and hot and nasty. There were a few times where it did downpour type weather. But thunderstorms, the things that I've been afraid of my whole life, they hardly existed. When these rain events happen, a couple days of rain and then go right back to being muggy, it did not clear out the air. It did not take the moisture out of the air. If anything, maybe it added moisture to the air. I don't know why I mentioned. But what I'm saying is, and this, I've never heard anybody say anything like this. I'm just completely making this up on my own. Okay? All that moisture that was in the air all these months never left. It never no squeegees came and took it out. Like you wring out, you're washing something, you wring out, nothing took the air and wring out all that moisture. This is probably totally impossible, and everybody will say I'm a crazy person. But there are different levels of the atmosphere. Scientists know all that crap. I don't know that crap, but I always think there's stuff scientists don't know today because 50 years ago they didn't know something they know now. So my theory is, I gotta itch myself once real quick because maybe something's biting me. What I'm saying happened is I am saying that that was 4 months of water. That was 4 months of water that never got squished out, and it all came down yesterday. I know there was a low pressure system. I know there was Hurricane Ida. I know that came all the way from the Gulf. But generally speaking, and I've been watching, what happens is as a tropical system, no. So because all these months there's been no cold front that came in and cleared. Now there were probably cold fronts, and they came by, and when they came by, they did nothing. Some days there was weather that you had like a maybe half a day where the humidity went away, but no weather, no thunderstorms, nothing squeezed the moisture out of the air. It was just better air for, like I said, like 12 hours. And that was very rare over this, like I said, since May. But there were a couple times here and there where it rained for like a day or a couple days. But again, it didn't cool off. It wasn't rain that made the air nice and clear. Okay? The air was clearer when it was raining than on all the other days. So it shouldn't be possible that the moisture could have just stayed up in the air or been accumulating all that time for months and months and months. And I'm not saying it did, but like, when you had, generally speaking, say there is moisture from the Gulf. I remember Vivian from the Weather Channel saying moisture in the Gulf, it comes up. Okay, it comes up, and if I'm doing it this way, that's the wrong way. It comes up, and as some kind of cold front is coming across, the moisture goes in front of it, and it gets pulled along and squeezed out. So if there was a big cold front, right, coming from like, I don't know, Minnesota down to Texas, it would act like a squeegee. It would pull up the moisture to make the thunderstorms, and all the moisture in front and all the cool air behind, it would squeegee it out. And along that front, you would get thunderstorms to varying degree. But it was very obvious to a normal person, okay, it's been humid, it's going to thunder, it's thundering, and now after the storm, it'll be nice, clear, and beautiful. That was not happening all summer long. Like I said, I don't remember. I think I heard a rumble of thunder twice or something in a whole summer. So when there's a tropical system, it'll do the same thing. This way. It'll squeegee, it'll bring the, tropical system or whatever, and it'll squeegee it, and it'll pull up that moisture so that it'll be more moisture than normal that comes, and sometimes it'll become a tropical depression or whatever. By the time it gets up here, and it'll rain, but by the time it gets up here, it will weaken, because a lot of the moisture will all be squished out. It'll all be squeegeed out on the way here from Texas or Louisiana or Mississippi or whatever. But this, like I said, when I looked at the radar last night, it looked like a cheese pizza. That means red, right? The sauce with orange on top for the cheese and like Parmesan, you know what I mean? So it was like, and the whole area, when there's a thunderstorm or cold front, it's supposed to be a line, like a skinny line of maybe red and yellow with some green out in front of it and darker green, and then squeegees out. This was like a big, like the size of New England mass of red and orange and yellow. And it's like, to me, I'm saying, how did that happen? What's going on? And they're talking about how much moisture there was, and I'm like, the moisture's been sitting here for 4 months. It's been stagnating for 4 months. That's why I said I couldn't breathe. I was able to think today. The weather cleared up today, and I said I couldn't think all summer. And last Saturday, last Sunday, because it cleared up the one day, I was able to think. Well, I was able to think all day today, because all that crap came out of the air, all that humidity came out, and I was able to breathe right and think right. That's why it affects me personally. So I notice, Even if I wasn't afraid of thunderstorm, I notice how I feel based on it's humid today. I can't do anything. I'm exhausted. I need clean air. You know, and it's been a whole summer of that. And then magically, by just coincidence, we get all that rain. That, like I said, that massive cheese pizza over, New England and New York and everything, New Jersey. The hurricane wasn't that big when it was headed towards New Orleans, when it was making landfall. It wasn't that massive. It wasn't as big as this cheese pizza I'm talking about. The area, and it was tight and it had a circulation, and you know what I mean, and it was around the center. This was just a big freaking blob. You know, that's my theory. My theory is that all that shit that came down and killed people. I didn't realize it was that bad. I didn't realize it came that fast that people died in their basements. That's insanity. That shows you how rare it is. Okay? That it happened in New York a little while ago and people were freaking out. I thought they were freaking out because they just didn't understand. When it was, what was it? No, I guess it was Henry. Henry wasn't the time I thought they were freaking out. It was the time before that when they were showing, oh, look, it's raining in the subway or whatever. But this is the end times. This is awful. That they're going to say, oh, yeah, it was a storm or whatever. They're never going to consider how the air never cleared out all freaking summer long. They'll say that can't happen because, jet streams or some bullshit. Where the hell has the jet stream been? Because the jet stream should have cleared us out, The weather was the same. In the 80s humid. Every night, when you look at the 10-day forecast, it'll say what the high is going to be. Something in the 80s. And then on the bottom, the nighttime low was 71, 69, 71, 69. No, like I said, I've been alive a long time looking at that. In the summertime, on nice days, you got lows in the 50s. The heat didn't come on or anything, but you got lows in the 50s. So the house cooled off. That's how some of us were able to still exist without air conditioning, because all you had to do was crack open the window overnight. It would cool the house off during the day. You're out, fine, you come home. The house was all right. But all those days consistently of the temperature never going below 65, because it didn't for months. That is all humid air for months and months and months and months. And I swear it just sat up there. And that it wasn't a squeegee, but it was like some kind of push that squished it all out at once. I don't even know if there was a cold front that brought that with it. I haven't. It's funny because as I'm saying that, I'm like, years ago they would always show you the weather map, and I feel like I never see the weather map anymore. It's just that regular weather map with that blue line and the L and the H. I don't feel like I see that anymore. Is that for a reason? Are we not having normal warm fronts and cold fronts like we used to? Is it all just, low pressure systems and stuff like that? Because, like I said, I don't see it. They just show you the models, show you what the computer said, and guess by the colors. Okay, it looks like a salad with ketchup, so guess, and this is what it's supposed to be doing at this time. And it's like they let the computers and the computer models just do the whole thing instead of them actually explaining to you or telling you the percentage, 30% chance, 10% chance. It's just like chance of. Like I said, that covers their ass. But I don't actually know what they were forecasting yesterday. I know that I check on the internet, but I don't know what the TV forecasters were saying. I know that I checked and it said that there was going to be rain from Ida. But generally speaking, hurricanes, tropical storms, tropical depressions, whatever, by the time their moisture gets here, it's not like that. Because it's depleted by the time it gets here. Not this time. Because like I'm saying, that humid air had been sitting up there without being squeegeed out, without being wrung out, all freaking summer long. And they will say that's not possible. And they will say I'm crazy. And that's fine. But how could it in all those times, could we not have a cold front come through and clean that shit out? When it used to happen, like I'm saying, when I was a kid growing up, it was like every 5 days, every 4 or 5 days, you get a line of thunderstorms, or at least a line of heavy rain that would squeeze out all the humidity, and then you start over with a nice crisp clear day, and it would just be this cycle of this is how the weather is. And that's been changing in the last few years, where it's just strange weather. But this, I swear, that was, like I said, 4 months of humidity all came down last night. That's what I think. And nobody's going to think that, and nobody's going to try to explain that. That's what I think happened. Because there's no thing that they go by that will say that. You know what I mean? They won't look and say, well, it was 4 months and it was all stored up there, like it was in baggies or in storage containers. They won't say that that's possible. But that's my theory. 4 months of humidity came down all at once last night, and it killed people. And they did all that. This is what I'm saying. I said it before. They do all this forecasting for stuff like tropical storms and hurricanes and stuff like that. And then what makes the power go out? A normal storm. A windstorm with no thunder, no lightning, no nothing. Like I said, power went out like 3 times since lockdown. And it had nothing to do with thunderstorms or tropical storms or depressions or anything. It was normal weather. Normal stormy, rainy, windy weather. This time they were, because of Katrina, they were focused on what's going to happen in New Orleans, and I get that. But there was no forecast that it was going to go ape shit up here. Why? Because it normally doesn't. So if they're just predicting like I can predict based on how it's always been, what's the point of all these computer models and things like that if they're not going to? Because now de Blasio and them are complaining about what happened, saying, well, we didn't know. They didn't tell us. They didn't know either. So why didn't they know? Why didn't the computers know? Because they're only reading what the computers tell them. Why didn't the computers know? Because there's something that they don't know about. Whatever, like I said, like this hidden level of the atmosphere, or hidden situation where the water can actually just sit there. And there's nothing that will detect that or measure that. Because they've never done that before, because it wasn't a thing before. Like a new kind of weather. A new kind of atmosphere, or a new kind of thing. That's not dew point. That's not humidity. That's something else. You know what I mean? Like a sponge layer that just held on to it all that time. And then squeezed, like dark matter, but for air. And all the moisture was just sitting in the dark matter waiting to come down. You know what I mean? The dark air. I don't know. That's my theory.